Today, our internet seems stable, but just record in case.
Okay. So, class, thank you very much. Good morning to you all. Welcome to another session of business economics. Today, we are going to continue from where we stopped last week.
Please, we are having a virtual lecture, so please, the noise will really interrupt.
Okay. So before we start, let me see whether you all have this book. Okay. So do you all have this book? I think that is our book one, which I shared with you. Everything that we are doing is in this book, and I specifically highlighted some page numbers for you to look at, especially for the topics that we did last week, and we will also be continuing from this week. Okay. 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 So this week we are going to continue from where we stopped, and we are specifically going to look at areas on the, extending. Let me just set this up. Okay. So we are going to continue from where we stopped, and we looked at issues on the demand and supply. Let me hide this. Okay. So last week we did one good case on the determination of equilibrium. Determination of equilibrium. Determination of equilibrium. So we got some equations to determine the equilibrium of a particular market, and we used just one good case where we said at equilibrium. So last week we said at equilibrium, demand is equal to supply. Now today we are going to continue with the same analysis, but in this particular case we are going to look at true good case. We are going to look at true commodity case. True commodity case. So we are going to look at true commodity case. Now, and I also realized that you have some of the past questions, so I want us to quickly look at one of them. And when you look at the last year's past question, there was a question on true good case that I would want us to use that to begin today's class. So there is going to be a situation where you would not have only one good. For instance, last week we were looking at only one good case where we had the demand and we also had a supply for that same particular good. But in this particular situation, we are going to have two cases of true goods. In that particular case, you would have to look at issues on. Let me just bring it up. Download. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this particular question, for instance. There is a question that says the demand and supply functions for two, you can see two interrelated, two interdependent commodities are given by the following. So we have, our quantity demanded for good one. We also have quantity demanded for good two. We have quantity supplied for good one, and we also have quantity supplied for good two. So we have these as the demand and supply functions, where QDI, QSI, and PI denote the quantity demanded, quantity supplied, and price of good I respectively. Okay. And here the question is determine the equilibrium price and quantity for these two commodity model. And then what type of goods are they? Briefly explain. So we have to work this particular question and then determining the equilibrium price for, for P1, P2, and of course the quantity demanded for good 1 and quantity demanded for what? For good 2. So the question is, using this particular, models, how do you determine the equilibrium in the market? So let's look at this. Now the question is saying that we have question. So we have quantity demanded for good 1 is given as 40 minus 5P1 minus P2. Quantity demanded for good 2 is given as 50 minus 2P1 minus 4P2. So as you can see clearly from this particular demand function, you will realize that the demand for good 1 here is not only dependent on its price, but also the price of what? Other goods. Demand for good 2, as you can see in this second equation, is also not determined by its own what? Price, which is P2 here, but it's also determined by what? By the price of another good, which is P1. So we also have the supply functions. So let's see the supply functions are this one for good 1, which is what? Minus 3 plus P, which is minus 3 plus 4P1. And we have the supply function for the second commodity as minus 7 plus 3P2. So you can see these are the demands and supply what functions, the demand and supply functions. So we have been asked to determine the equilibrium price. So with this one, the question is determine the equilibrium price. Determining the equilibrium price and what? And quantity. And then the second part is what type of good. What type of goods are they? So we are looking at what? This good 1 and then good what? Good 2. Good 1 and good 2. So this is the question. So you realize that, like I've been saying, the demand for commodity 1 is given by this function. And you realize that by the law of demand, a particular commodities, the quantity demanded, okay, it's not only being affected by its price, as we can see here, but also the price of what? Other good. So in the demand function for good 1, we have its price here, and we also have the price of what? The other good, which is affecting the demand. In demand, the quantity demanded for good 2, we also have the price of its own what? Its own self, which is what? P2, influencing the demand here, but we also have what? The price of other commodity, which is P1, also affecting what? The demand here. But in the supply function, you realize that each supplies are only being affected by what? By their respective what? Prices. So using this, we are asked to do what? To find the equilibrium what? Price and then the equilibrium quantity. So let's solve for this. So let's solve for this one. So in this particular case, we have. So first we are looking at what? Let me go to the next page for us to start afresh. So we are looking at what? At equilibrium, determination of the equilibrium prices. Determination of equilibrium price and quantity. So you will know that the first rule is what? At equilibrium. I'm just writing equilibrium short. At equilibrium, demand. So here, let me just use quantity demanded here. At equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. Which means that for the first equation, we are looking at what? Quantity demanded for good 1 is equal to what? Quantity supplied for good 1. And then the other one would be what? Quantity demanded for good 2 should also be equal to quantity supplied for what? For good 2. which means that when you go to this particular question, we have here as, we can make here as equation 1, here as equation 2, here as equation 3, here as what? Equation 4. Which means that based on these 4 equations, okay, we have quantity demanded for good 1 here, which we will equate to each quantity what? Supplied. And we have quantity, supplied for good 2, which we will equate with what? Quantity demanded for good 2. So we will equate this quantity demanded for good 2 to quantity supplied for good 2, which means that we are going to equate equation 1 to equation 3, and then equate equation 2 to equation what? Equation 4. So when you look at that, we are going to have, for the first one, we are going to have 40, which is the what? The quantity demanded. 40 minus 5P1 minus what? P2 is equal to quantity supplied. And quantity supplied for good 1 is what? Minus 3 plus what? 4 minus 3 plus 4P1. 4P1. So let's solve for this one. So in this one we can have, so this is the first one that we are going to solve. After that, we go to the second one. So here, let's group like terms. So we can have 40 here plus 3 if we bring this 3 across, which is equal to, if we send this 5 across here, it's going to be what? Plus 5P1, okay? Is this, yeah, this is P1, plus 5P1 plus what? 4P what? 1. This is minus. So we can send this P across, which will be what? Plus P2, plus P2, plus P2. So in this particular case, we are going to have 43 is equal to 5 plus 4. Here will be 9, P1 plus what? Plus P2. We can make here equation what? Equation 5. So this is for the first one. And then for the second one, we are going to have equation 2, which is the demand function for goods 2, being equated to the supply function for what? For goods 2, which means we are going to equate equation 2 to equation what? 4. So in the second one, we are going to have 50. We are going to have, which means the second one, let me just write this so that you will not be confused. So in the second one, we are going to have what? 50 minus 2P1 minus 4P2 as the quantity demanded function, being equal to minus 7 plus 3P2. So this is the what? The supply function for that particular commodity, which is commodity 2. So let's group like terms here. So we will have 50 plus 7, which is equal to what? 2P1, okay, plus 3P2. This one is what? Minus. So when it's going to cross, it will be positive. So plus what? Plus 4P2. So here will be 57 is equal to 2P1 plus this, we will get 7 plus 7P what? 2. So we can call here equation what? 6. So we have equation 5, and we also have what? Equation 6. Let's just rewrite it. We can rewrite this particular equation 5 as 9P1. We can write equation 5 as 9P1 plus what? Plus P2, which is equal to 43. And we can also write equation 6 as what? As 2P1 plus 7P2 is equal to what? 57. So this is just equation 5, and this is equation what? 6. So you will see clearly this is what? A simultaneous equation. This is a simultaneous equation. So we have to use, so here is a simultaneous equation. So both equation 5, so let me just write it, both equation 5 and equation 6 will be solved simultaneously. will be solved simultaneously. Okay, so let's go to the next. So here I will just rewrite 9P1 plus P2 is equal to 43. And then the second one will be 2P1 plus 7P2 is equal to 57. So equation 5, equation 6. Now, you can solve equation 5, equation 6 using two approaches, okay? So using two approaches. So equation 5 and 6 can be solved using two approaches. So one, we can solve it using simultaneous equation. Using simultaneous equation. We can solve this one using simultaneous equation, or we can also solve it using matrix. Using matrix to solve it. Okay, now let's use the first one, simultaneous equation, to solve it. So if you are going to use simultaneous equation to solve it, using simultaneous equation, we will use two approaches. So under simultaneous equation, we use two approaches. One is the what? The elimination method. One is the elimination method. And then the other one is the what? Is the substitution method. The other one is the substitution method. Okay, so now let's use the elimination method because it's quite easier. Here, the unknown variables are what? P1 and then P2 in equation 5. Even in equation 6, the unknown variables are what? P1 and then what? P2. So we need to solve for this particular two. Now, using elimination method, we have to look at these particular equations and see how we can eliminate one of the variables, okay? Now, when you look at P1, to eliminate a particular variable, the coefficients must be what? The same. For instance, if we want to eliminate P1, the coefficient, which is 9 and 2, should be made the same. And you can make them the same by multiplying equation 5 by what? 2, and multiplying equation what? 2 by what? By 9. So that here will be 18, here will be 18, here would also be what? 18, and then you subtract one equation from the other. To eliminate equation, to eliminate P2, okay, here the coefficient is 7 in equation 6, and equation 5, the coefficient is what? Is 1, because we can find 1 attached to this particular variable. To eliminate it, we have to multiply equation what? We have to let the coefficients to be the same, which means that here, this 7, this side as the coefficient of P2 in equation 5 should also be 7, which means that if we want to eliminate P2, we have to multiply equation 1 by what? By the coefficient of P2 in equation 6, which is what? 7. So we have to multiply here by 7, and here we multiply here by 1. Okay, so now let's eliminate P2 because it's quite easier. So let's eliminate P2. Let me cancel this. So let's eliminate P2. So to eliminate P2, we need to multiply equation what? 2 by what? By 7. Okay, and multiply equation, we need to multiply equation 5 by 7 and equation what? 6 by what? By 1. Equation 6 by 1. So in this particular case, we are going to have 7 times what? Times 9. We are going to have 7 here times 9. So if you have 7 times 9, that will be 60 what? 3. So the first one, we are going to have 63. So we are going to have 63. So we are going to have 63. P what? P1 plus 7 times P2, which will be what? 7P what? 2 is equal to 7 times 43. We are going to have 30301. Okay. Now, for the second equation, we are going to multiply 2 by what? 1, 7 here by 1, and then 57 by 1. So in this particular case, equation 6 will remain the same. Okay. So we can have here as maybe equation 7, and then equation 6 would be what? The same 2P, okay? 1 plus 7P2 is equal to what? is equal to 57. We can name here equation 8, where equation 8 and equation 6 are the same. Okay, so in this particular case, these are now our new equations. So how do we eliminate it? Make P2 to vanish. Remember, we are going to eliminate P2. Okay, so to eliminate P2, so let me see where. Okay, so here we were eliminating. So let's eliminate. So to eliminate P2, we do what? We subtract equation what? 8 from equation what? 7. Okay, which means that equation 7 minus equation 8. So it's going to be 63 minus what? 2. 63 minus 2. What are we going to get? 61. So we will get what? 61. So here will be 61 P1. 61 P1. And then here 7 P minus what? 7P here, it will be 0. So here will be 0. This is equal to 301 minus 57. What will you get? You will get 244. So in this particular case, we have to divide both sides by what? By 61. Divide here by what? 61. So this will cancel this. So here, what are we going to get? P1 is equal to 244 divided by 61. We are going to get 4. So when you divide 244 by 61, you are going to get 4. So our first equivalent price for good 1 is what? Is 4. So now let's put this 4 into any of these equations what above. So let's put 4, maybe let's just put it in equation what? In equation 8, as you can see, so that we are able to find price for good what? For good 2. So let's put P1, which is equal to 4, into equation 8, because it's just closer to us. So here equation 8 is given as what? Equation 8 is given as 2 P1 plus 7 P2 is equal to 57. It's equal to 57. But Q1 is equal to what? 4. From where? From here. So we are going to have 2, 4, okay, plus 7P2, which is equal to 57. Which is equal to 57. So here, this times this, we are going to have what? 8 plus 7P2, which is equal to what? 57. So we can as well just have group-like terms. So here will be what? 7P2 is equal to 57 minus what? 8. So what are we going to get? 7P2 is equal to 49. So here again, we divide by 7, divide here by 7. This will cancel this. So our P2 will be what? Would be 7. Would be 7. This means that our equivalent price for good 1 is 4, and equivalent price for good 2 is what? Is 7. So what is left? The equilibrium what? Quantities. And the equilibrium quantities, when you go back to the demand and supply functions in the question, you can find them. You can find them. So we have the, where is it? We have the, yes, we have the demand and supply functions here. So we are looking for what? Demand, quantity demanded for what? Equilibrium, equilibrium quantity for good 1 and equilibrium quantity for what? For good 2. So in this particular case, we can just put, let me see what is the demand and supply functions. Okay, so now let's put P1 and P2 into equation 1. And remember, equation 1 was what? The quantity demanded for good 1, okay, which was 40 minus 5P1 minus 2P2. So we are going to have what? 40 minus 5. P1 is what? 4 minus P2. P2 is what? Is 7. So in this particular case, we are going to have 40 minus what? 20 minus what? 7. 40 minus 20 will be 20. 20 minus 7 will be 13. So which means that our equilibrium quantity for good 1 will be what? Will be 13. Equilibrium quantity for good 1 would be 13. For good 2, we will put the same for good 2. For good 2, we will put the same P1 and P2 into what? The equation, equation 2, which was the demand function for which good? For good 2. So for good 2, we put for good 2. So we put P1, which is equal to 4, okay? P2, which is equal to 7. We put it into equation 2. And equation 2 was this one for the second good, 50 minus 2P1 minus 4P2. So in this particular case, we are going to have 50 minus 2P1. And what is P1? P1 is 4 minus 4P2. And P2 is what? 7. So here we are going to have 50 minus what? 8. Minus what? 28. Here we are going to have 50 minus 8 minus 28. This will give us what? 14. So which means that the equilibrium quantity for good what? 2 is 14. Remember, at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. And once they are equal, the quantity will be the same, which is equal to 1 quantity. So which means that when you even put P1 and P2 into the supply functions, where is it? Into this particular function, you are going to get the same answer. So let's say we have what? Quantity supplied for good 2 here. We have quantity supplied for good what? 1. Instead of putting the prices in the demand equations, we can as well just put them in the supply what? Equations. So let's say, so this is alternatively, you don't need to do the same exercise by putting it in both equations, but let's just decide to, so this is an alternative solution. Let's just decide to put P1, which was 4, P2, which was 7, into the supply equations. And the supply equations for good 1 was minus 3 plus what? Plus 4P what? 1. So in this particular case, the quantity supply or the equilibrium, the quantity supplied or the equilibrium quantity supplied will be what? Minus 3 plus 4P1. And P1 was what? We found P1 to be 4. We found P1 to be 4 from here. So here will be minus 3 plus what? Plus 16. And you will get what? 13. You will get 13. Quantity what? Supplied, which is the same thing as the quantity demanded that we got here. Which is the same thing as the quantity demanded that we got here for good 1. So for good 2, we can as well just decide to put what? The price of goods 2 into the what? The quantity supplied equation, which we said was this one plus 3P2. So in this particular case, we will have 7 plus 3 times P2, and P2 was what? P2 was what? 7. So here will be minus 7 times what? Plus, here will be 21. This will give you 14 as the quantity supply for goods 2. So you realize that in both equations, okay, you are going to have the same answer. So you just need to choose whether to put it in the demand equation or the supply equation. So conclusively, therefore, our equilibrium price for good 1 is what? 4. And equilibrium price for good 2 is what? 7. Our equilibrium quantity, okay, for good 1 is 13. and equilibrium quantity for good 2 is what? It's 14. So if I further ask you to illustrate this in the to illustrate this diagrammatically, so diagrammatically we are going to have something like this diagram. Diagrammatically, we are going to have something like this. So we have this. So we have price here for good 1. We have quantity here for what? For good 1. So for good 1, this is good 1. So we are going to have here as the demand function for good 1. Okay. And we will also have here as the supply function for good 1. Remember, here is the equilibrium. Okay. So this is the equilibrium. So we are going to have this as the equilibrium price. And what is the equilibrium price for good 1? That was what we got as 4. Yeah. And what is the equilibrium quantity? 13. So here would be 13. So here would be 13. So for good 2, we will do the same. So we have here quantity, price for which good? Good 2. Good 2. So here is our good what? Our good 2. So here is our good 2. So in this particular case, we will also have the same what? Demand. We will also have the same demand curve. Okay, for good 2. And here would also be the supply for good 2. Remember, in this particular case as well, we will have our what? Our equilibrium here. Here would be what? 7. The 7 that we found. And here would be 14. The 14 that we found here. So this is how you illustrate it diagrammatically. So this is how you illustrate it diagrammatically for both goods. So in case you have been asked to illustrate your answer diagrammatically, this is how you will do it. There is also a way that you can combine the two. There is also a way that you can combine the two. Okay. So the second one was for us to look at the second part of the question, which was what? What type of goods are they? So we have solved the A part. Here is what type of goods are they? And remember, in such a case, we are looking at what? The price of a commodity, the demand of a commodity and the price of another commodity. So remember, under determinants of demand, we had what is called the prices of what? Related what? Goods or prices of other goods as factor affecting what? The demand. So in this particular case, we are just going to look at maybe the first demand equation for good 1. Instead of comparing it to the each price, we are going to compare it to the price of what? The other good. So we have demand here for good 1, okay? And then we have price here for what? For good 2. That is the price of other good. And in this particular case, remember I said you will focus on the sign of the coefficient. Here, the sign of the coefficient is what? Is negative. The sign of the coefficient is negative. The sign of the coefficient is negative. Let me just go to, so here we are doing the B part. And the B part, we are looking at the price of what? Other good. And we said we have demand. So we have demand 1 as 40 minus 5P1 minus what? P2. Let me use the second one too, so you can see how it will give you the same answer. Here would be what? 15 minus 2P1 minus what? 4P2. That's good. So in this particular case, we are looking at the demand for good 1 and then the price for what? For good 2. So here the coefficient of what? P2 is what? Is negative. It's less than 0. So what does that mean? It means that an increase in price of what? This particular goods 2, which is an increase in the price of goods 2, will lead to a fall in the demand for good 1. For good 1, it will lead to a fall in the demand for good 1, as you can see, because the relationship is what? Is negative, which means if this one is increasing, this one is falling. And if this one is what? And if this one is falling, demand will be what? Demand will be increasing. So what type of good would have the demand reduced when the price of the other good is increasing? So what type of good is that? Who can answer? So what type of good is that? Alternatively, if price,
I didn't get the question clear.
So the question is, here we have an increase in price of a good, okay, leading to decrease in the demand for other good, or decrease in the price of a good
It's a complementary.
leading to leading to an increase in the demand for the other good. So what type of good is it?
I'll consider it as a substitute good.
Explain why.
Because when you look at when there is a price increase in one good, it will lead to a fall in demand for the other. For instance, if you look at let's say a Milo and Bonvita, for instance, anytime there's a price increase in Milo, then these are those who since those goods can actually serve the same what do you call it? Those goods can actually serve the same purpose. So the price increase in one will push the consumers to shift to the purchase of the one that is of low price. That will cause for the fall in the price of the other one.
So when the consumers shift from consuming this particular goods to the other substitute good, does the demand for the other substitute good increase or fall?
Okay, that will be an increase.
But that is not the case here. Everything you are shifting to the other good because the price of the other good has increased. But in this particular case, you are shifting, yes, price has increased, but you are shifting to the other good, so it will increase the demand for the other good. But in this particular question, it is decreasing the demand for the other good. So what type of good is it?
This is a complementary good.
So can you explain?
You know, complementary goods are joint in nature. So definitely when the increase of a complementary good would lead to a decrease in the other complementary good.
Decrease in what?
Decrease in the demand of the other good, other complementary good.
Excellent. I hope you get it.
Yes.
Good. So because when price of one particular complementary good is increasing, as we can see, it leads to a fall in the demand for the other good, which is good one. So price of good 2 is increasing, and we are decreasing demand for the other good. Which means that if price of fuel is increasing, people tend to buy less cars. Or if price of battery is increasing, people tend to buy less of torchlight. Are you getting it? So these are complementary goods. Alternatively, when price of fuel is low, people will tend to buy more cars or motorbikes. Or if price of torchlight of battery, okay, is low, people will tend to buy more torchlight. So these particular 2 goods are complementary. Are complementary goods. So if they are complementary goods and you say they are substitutes, it's zero straight away. Okay. So that is it. So the 2 goods are complementary goods based on the sign of the coefficient. So we did this one. So that is it. Okay. So let's extend the analysis. And here we can also use the matrix, but I wouldn't want to do that to waste our time. So I've noticed even using matrix, a lot of students don't use it to answer questions, but it's also a very simple way of dealing with such a situation under multiple goods cases. Okay. Now, let's look at the case where we have introduction of taxes. Introduction of taxes. How does that affect the market? Introduction of taxes? And its effect on the market. Remember we said under factors affecting supply. Tax is a key factor affecting supply, and tax affects supply through the cost of production. So remember, once we have taxes introduced, it affects supply, okay? And it affects supply through the what? Through cost of production, through the cost of production, which we did earlier, through the cost of production. So let's look at a situation where government is imposing taxes, okay, on a particular commodity. What will be the market dynamics? First, the market is stable. Then later, government introduces taxes to make the market what? Unstable. Then the market will have to change, okay? There will be differences there will be difference in the equilibrium what price, and there will also be difference in the equilibrium what quantity. So when a tax is being introduced in a market, for instance, we have quantity demanded as A maybe minus BP1, and we have quantity supplied as, let's say, minus C plus GP1. Okay, let me just cancel the, because I'm looking at only one good case. So in this particular case, when taxes are introduced, government is introducing a tax. Government is introducing a tax rate, okay? So amount A1 and 2, between 1 and 2, which one will this particular indirect tax affect? It will affect the what? It will affect the supply function. It will affect the supply function. So when a tax is being imposed, its effect is directly, especially if an indirect tax imposed on the commodity, its effect is what? Is directly felt in the what? In the supply what equation. So we have to control for that in the only in the supply what equation, only in the supply equation. Remember, before the tax is introduced, there would have been equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. And after the tax is introduced, there will be changes in the equilibrium price and equilibrium what quantities. So you need to be able to determine both what cases. Now let's look at a situation where we have taxes, where we have taxes. Now, if we have a question like, let me see whether, let me show you this one. Do we have it here? Okay, this is good. Okay, so let's look at this particular question. This is a question that involves taxes, still under demand and supply. And the question is, Gasem Limited is one of the top producers of cement in Ghana. The company's demand and supply functions of cement are given by, so this is the P, which is the price. P is equal to minus 4QD plus what? 120. And the second one is P is equal to 1/3 QS plus what? Plus 29. Where P, QD, and QS denote the price, quantity demanded, and quantity supplied respectively. So even if I don't have this particular thing written for you, which is the one where we said, where it has been said P stands for this, QD stands for this, you should know clearly from the equation that we have QD as what? Quantity demanded. So the first equation, which is what? P is equal to minus 4 QD plus 120 is the demand equation, even if I've not specified it, because you can see QD here. The second one, you can also see QS, which means this is also the supply what equation, okay? And now the question is A, calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium what quantity. Calculate the equilibrium price and equilibrium what quantity. So let's see how do we calculate for the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity in this particular case. Now, the question is what? The question is telling us to look at the demand and supply equations. And what was the demand equation? So first, we have this particular equation. We have this particular equation. P is equal to minus 4QD, okay, plus 120. And then the other one is also P is equal to 1/3 QS plus 29. And the question is, find the equilibrium price. The A is what? Find equilibrium price and what? And quantity. So let's say this is equation what? 1. This is equation what? 2. So this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. From these two equations, which one is the quantity demanded equation or the demand equation? Is equation 1. You can see clearly we have QD here. And which one is the quantity supplied equation? We can also see clearly is here. Now, the question is asking us to find equilibrium price and quantity, which we should find Q and find what P. Now, the solution. You remember, we set at what? At equilibrium. We set at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity what? Quantity supplied. But here we don't have quantity demanded standing alone. We don't also have quantity supply standing alone. So do we have to make QD the subject before we equate? Or do we also have to make QS the subject before we equate the two? Remember, this is not demand equation straight away, as we saw in the earlier one, which started from QD is equal to something, and then QS is equal to something. In this particular case, it is what? P is equal to this one, and then P is equal to what? To this one. So do we have to make this one the subject before we equate? In this particular case, you can make QD the subject, okay? You make QD the subject, okay? If you make QD the subject, you are going to be what? Getting the 4QD. This one will cross. 4QD is equal to what? 120 minus what? Minus P. You divide here by 4, divide here by 4, divide here by 4. So QD is equal to 120 divided by 4. What will you get? You will get 30. Okay, 120 divided by 4, you will get 30. Minus here will be, maybe if you want, you can convert to decimals. Otherwise, it will be 1/4P. So this is the quantity demanded equation. And then you make the other one the subject before you equate. Now, when you go through this procedure, it is going to be quite lengthy for you, okay? You don't have to waste your time to make QD the subject or QS the subject. Even though you are on the right path, this is not encouraged because you will only be wasting your time. Okay, so I would not encourage you to do what? To do this, even though this is also one way of solving it, but you will only be wasting your time. Now, if we go back to the question, it is P is equal to what? 4 minus 4D plus 120. This one is equal to 1/3 QS plus what? Plus 120. Remember, at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. And at the same equilibrium, please also note, at the same equilibrium, price from the demand side is equal to price from the what? From the supply side. Which means that price demanders will be paying for the good would also be the same price suppliers would also be taking. Because at equilibrium, as we know, quantity supplied and quantity what? And quantity demanded are the same. So this particular price at equilibrium would be the same for both supply function and the demand function. And this particular quantity would also be the same for both supply function and demand what? Function. So in this particular case, when the market is at equilibrium, it means that the price that suppliers will be taking would be the same as the price demanded would also be what? Offering. So in this particular case, at equilibrium, the price from the demand equation and the price from the supply equation are the same. So which means that instead of wasting our time to make QD the subject or QS the subject, you can just equate equation what? 1 to equation 2, which means that you are just going to equate price is equal to what? Price. Price is equal to price, which means that we would have to just go and look at this, our first equation where we had price is equal to minus 4QD plus 120. And then the other one was also price is equal to 1/3 QS plus what? Plus 29, as you can see. So which means that at equilibrium, price is equal to what? Price. Is that not it? The first price here from the demand side is equal to the supply from the demand side. And you also remember at that same equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. And the two quantities from the demand side and the supply side will be the same. You will have the same quantity demanded. If you put it in the supply equation, you will get the same quantity what? The demand, the quantity supplied, quantity supplied. If you also put it in the demand equation, you will get the same what? Quantity demanded equation, which means that the quantities that we are looking at here, QD and QS at equilibrium, they should all be what? The same, which means that the quantity that we are going to have will be what? The same quantity at equilibrium, would be the same quantity at equilibrium, which means that minus from here, which means that here minus what? 4D, minus 4 QD, okay, plus 120 should be equal to 1 over 3 QS plus what? 29. But you realize that we have QD, we have QS. You cannot really make much progress, okay, with this one because these are two unknowns, but you should have only one unknown to be able to solve it. And then that is when this particular second condition will come in, because you realize that at equilibrium, QS is equal to what? QD, which is equal to Q, which will give you just one quantity, which means that we can as well just replace QD, QS by what? By Q. So this particular equation can also be written as 4Q plus 120, which is equal to what? 1 over 3 Q plus what? Plus 29, plus 29, plus 29. So here you can clearly just multiply by 3 to remove this one. Sometimes if you fear fraction, you just eliminate it first, or you can just use your calculator and convert it to decimals. 1 over 3, you will get 0.33333. Okay, but here let's just eliminate this one first so that we can be free. So, okay, so we multiply here by what? By 3, multiply here by 3, multiply here by 3, multiply here by what? By 3. So if you multiply both sides by 3, what will you get? Here you will have minus 12Q plus 120 times 3. You will have 300 and what? 60. This will now cancel this. So you will have Q plus 29 times what? Times 3. What will you get? 29 times 3. You will get 87. So you can now do what? Group like terms. You can now group like terms. So here we can just let this trade system maintain here because of this one. Here will cross. Okay. So minus what? 87, which is equal to Q. This one will also what? Cross to become plus 12 what? Q. So here will be what? 360 minus 87. You will get 273, which is equal to 13Q. Divide here by 13, divide here by 13. This will cancel this. So you will find Q to be 273 divided by what? 13. You will have 21. So equilibrium quantity is what? Is 21. Equilibrium quantity is 21. So how do we find equilibrium price? So let's put Q, which is equal to 21, into any of the equations. So let's put it into which equation? Let's just put it in equation what? Let's say this is equation 1, this is equation 2. So let's put it in equation what? 1. Remember this Q, D, and QS are the same. So we'll put it into equation 1. So putting Q into equation what? 1. And what is equation 1? Equation 1 is P is equal to minus 4 Q plus 120. Remember, this is QD, but at equilibrium is the same thing as what? Q. And we have what? Q to be 21. So here will be P is equal to minus 4, 21 plus what? Plus 120. Plus 120. So P would be equal to here 21 times 4. We are going to have minus what? 84 plus 120. So P is equal to 120 minus 84. Here would be 36. So therefore, our equilibrium price, okay, is what? 36, and equilibrium quantity. Equilibrium quantity is what? Is what we found here, 21. Equilibrium quantity is 21. Equilibrium quantity is 21. Equilibrium quantity is 21. Are we clear? So we now have equilibrium price and equilibrium what? Quantity and equilibrium quantity. Okay. Now let's make progress. Now the second part of the question is asking us to do what? So let's read the second part. Where is it? So let's read the second part. Okay. So the second part is what? B. So we have found equilibrium price and quantity. So the second one is government's desire to increase tax revenue led to the imposition of what? A fixed tax of what? 13 cedis per bag of what? Cement. Remember, we are dealing with the same as top producers. So this is their demand and supply function. So government is imposing a tax rate of what? A tax of 13 cedis per what? Per bag of cement. Calculate the new equilibrium price and equilibrium what? Quantity after the tax. So you remember that we said with this one, so government is imposing a tax of what? 13 cedis per bag. Okay, so let's go back to the question. So the B part is government is introducing a tax of what? 13 cedis. I don't know how to write 3.
A question, please.
Okay.
Please, I want to find out, since at the point of equating at equilibrium, when you are equating the demand, the quantity demand and the quantity supply, I remember that you use the quantity demanded because of the equilibrium to fix in the quantity supply column. So will I be right to say that if you are not using that, we are going to the reverse, where we use the quantity supply in place of the quantity demand, we still get the same answers. Am I right?
Oh, yes. We still get the same answers. Remember, we did that, we experimented that earlier.
Okay, thank you.
So remember, Q is 21 or so. What was Q? Q 21, yes. So you can still put the here 21. So remember, if you put 21, it means 21 divided by 3 plus 29. What will you get? Are you getting it? 21 divided by 3 is 7. 7 plus 20, 7 plus 29. 7 plus 29. You will get 36, which is the same here. Yes.
Hello, please. No, not at that point. Please, can you go up small, a little bit for me? Please go up. Yes, where with the blue is it? So now here we use -4 instead of the quantity. No, the second equation. P is equal to 1 divided by 3 QS plus 29. You know, in order to arrive as the quantity demanded, we use how to call it quantity demanded is called quantity supply, where we replace the quantity supply for quantity demanded. So it's equal to. So now what I'm saying here is that if we should use the first equation -4 QS plus 120, and we now equate the two equations, I was still going to get the same quantity supply. Then we now put it back into equation 2. I was still going to get the same answers.
Remember the first one, if you equate the two, okay, remember that was what we did by equating the prices. So when you equate the two, you are going to do what? Find what? Q. And we said at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So when you equate, you are going to find the same quantity, okay? And then you put that particular same quantity into either the price function for in equation 1 or equation 2. You are going to get the same answer.
Okay.
You are going to get the same answer. Okay.
Thank you.
So now let's look at a case where government is imposing a tax of what? 13 cedis. 13 cedis per what? Per bag. Remember, this will directly affect the supply function. So please note, the imposition of tax will affect only the supply function. Will affect the supply function only. This is function, will affect the supply function only. So please note. Please note. So remember, in the question, so here we are asked to find a new equivalent price and equivalent quantity after the imposition of what? A tax of what? 13 cedis per what? Per bag. So our first, please remember that our supply equation was what? Our demand equation was, let's say, demand equation was P is equal to minus 4Q G plus 120. And then the other equation was 1 over 3 QS plus 29. This was the equations. This was the equation for a situation where we didn't have taxes. Okay, so now we have taxes, which means that this particular tax rate, we now have taxes, and that tax is 13. And this tax will affect which equation? Will it affect equation 1 or equation 2? It will affect what? Equation 2. So which means in this particular case, our demand equation, which is what? The equation 1 here will remain the same, but for equation 2, it will have to control for the imposition of that particular tax, which means that our new supply function will now be what? P is equal to 1 over 3 QS plus what? 29 plus 29 plus what? Plus T, where T is what? Is the tax. Where T is the tax. Where T is the tax. And what was the tax? But T is what? 13. You can see it because the government is imposing a tax of what? 13 cedis, which means that the new supply curve or equation will be 1 over 3 QS plus 29 plus what? 13. So here will be P is equal to 1 over 3 QS plus 29 plus what? 13. What will you get? 42. So this is our new supply what equation? Equation 3. So this is now the new supply equation. So we have to find the equivalent price and equivalent quantity under the tax regime. So in this particular case, we are going to equate equation 1, which is the demand equation, which is not affected. We are going to equate equation 1. Let me do it this way so you can see. We are going to equate equation 1 to equation what? To equation 3, and then solve for P and solve for what? For Q. So in this particular case, we have to equate. So in this particular case, we have to equate the demand equation, which is equation what? 1, and the new supply equation, which is equation what? 3, which is equation 3. So this is the demand equation, and this is the what? The supply what? Equation. Because you know, at equilibrium, no, let me just cancel this one. And I've jumped a step. At equilibrium, demand is equal to what? Supply. So this is the new one. So which means that here we have to equate equation what? 1 and equation 3. Because equation 3 is the new supply equation. I will call it S star 1. This one. So our demand equation is what? Remember, it remains unaffected. So it will be, demand equation is P is equal to minus 4 QD, okay, plus 120. And our new supply equation would now be P is equal to what? Remember, we found it here. 1 over 3 QS plus what? Plus 42. Plus 42. So what do we do at equilibrium? At equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to what? Quantity supplied. And remember, at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, which gives you one quantity. And at the same equilibrium, remember we said price from the demand side is equal to price from the what? From the supply side. So we can equate this and what? And this. So we are going to have -4 QD plus 120 is equal to 1/3 QS, is that not it? Plus 42. Remember, we said at equilibrium, QD and QS gives you one price, one quantity. So which means that here we can just rewrite this one as this one, 4Q minus 4Q plus 120, which is equal to 1/3 Q plus 42. So in this particular case, what do we do? Like we did similar one, we multiply here. We multiply here by what? 3, here by 3, here by 3, here by what? 3 to eliminate this one. So here will be minus, here will be minus what? 12Q plus what? 3 times 120. You will have what? 360. 360, which is equal to this, will cancel this. So here will be Q plus 42 times 3. We are going to have 1, 2, 6. So we can now group like them. So here will be 360. This one, 126 can cross. So minus 126 is equal to Q. Here can cross to become plus 12 what? Q. So 360 minus 126. We are going to have 234, which is equal to what? 13Q. So we can divide here by 13, divide here by 13. This will cancel this. So our Q, our new quantity, quantity supplied or equivalent quantity will be what? 234 divided by 13. We are getting 18. We are getting 18. So our new equivalent quantity is what? It's 18. Our new equivalent quantity is 18. So how do we find the equivalent what? Price? So we then put this equivalent price, the new quantity, into either this particular equation or this particular equation. This particular equation or this particular equation. Okay, so this is equation 1 and this is equation what? 3. So let's put it into the supply equation. Remember, we put the first one into the demand equation. Let's see. So let's put Q is equal to 18 into equation 3 so that we can solve the other the question that our brother asked. So here we are putting it into this equation, which is what? 1, which is P is equal to 1/3 Q S plus 40, where is it? Plus 42. Plus 42. But remember, at equilibrium, we said QS is equal to what? QD, which is equal to Q, the same quantity. And this quantity is the same as what? The quantity that we found. So we can as well just eliminate this particular quantity, QS. Okay, and we have what? Q to be what? 18. So in this particular case, we are going to have what? P is equal to 1/3 18 plus what? Plus 42. So here will be 6. Here would be 6 plus what? 42. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So 42 plus what? 6. We are going to have 48. So P is equal to what? 48. P is equal to 48. So this is the new equilibrium price, 48. This is the new equilibrium price of 48. Alternatively, we can also just put it into the equation 1. Remember, and equation 1 is what? The demand side, which is P is equal to, or if we put it into the demand equation, it will be P is equal to, it was minus 4QD minus 4 QD. Okay. And then what was the what is the name? Plus 120. Plus 120. So here would give us what? Minus 4 Q. Q is what? Where is it? 18. 18 plus 120. So what will you get? So 4 times 18 here will give us 72 minus 72. So we have 120 minus 72. You will have the same P, which is equal to what? 48. So that's the new price. So this is now the new price people will be paying for. So you see that you are going to get the same answer, whether you put it into the equation 1 or you put it in the equation 2. You are getting the same answer. As you can see, this is the same as this one. So you just choose one and put it in. Okay, you just put one and put it in. So now how do you illustrate this diagrammatically? Please note that before taxes, okay, equivalent price. Before taxes, equivalent price was what? What was the equivalent price that we found earlier? 36. And equivalent quantity. Okay, let me just summarize this one. Okay, good. So here, therefore, the new equivalent price is what? 48. And equivalent quantity is what? Is 18. Equivalent quantity is 18. Equivalent quantity is 18. And equivalent quantity is what? It's 18. Okay. So now, before taxes, equivalent price was what? Equivalent price was, what was the equivalent price? 36, and quantity was 21. So 36, 21, 36, and then quantity was 21. Is that not it? So now after tax, equivalent price became what? 48, we found here, and equivalent quantity became what? 18. Equivalent quantity became what? 18. As you can see. So let's illustrate this diagrammatically and you see. So if we have this, this is price, this is quantity. So this is the demand equation, QD. Okay, this is before tax. This is before tax. And we have the what? The supply equation. This is also before tax. This is also before tax. This is also before tax. So we have, this is also before tax. So the equivalent price is here. And what was the equivalent price? Before tax, 36. And equivalent quantity, 21. 21. Now, government has imposed tax. And when government imposed tax, what happened to the supply? As you can see, we have lower one, okay, because it will decrease the what? The supply. Okay, so before tax, we have this, and after tax, it will increase. Okay, after tax, it will increase. So we have this new what? Supply. So here would be what? The quantity supply. That is after tax. So I'll put T here. As you can see, after the imposition of what? Will demand curve be affected? No, because remember, the tax is only affecting the what? The supply. So demand curve will remain unchanged. Okay, demand curve will remain unchanged. Now, with the imposition of the taxes, what has happened to price? Price increased from 36 to what? To 48. So the new equivalent price that we are seeing is here, which is what? 40 what? 48. And what happened to equivalent quantity? 18. So equivalent quantity reduced to 18. Equivalent quantity reduced to 18. Equivalent quantity reduced to 18. I hope you can see it. So this is how you illustrate it diagrammatically. This is how you illustrate it diagrammatically. As you can see, the imposition of the tax has led to a decrease in the supply curve, has led to a decrease in the supply. So this is change in supply. It shifts in the entire supply curve to the left, to denote decrease in supply, because it will increase the tax. Imposition of the tax will increase the cost of production, and by increasing the cost of production, what will happen to quantity supply? Supply would have to fall, but the demand curve will remain the same. But what you will observe is the quantity demanded, okay, would decrease from here to here, would decrease from 21 to 18. Why? Because the imposition of the tax has led to an increase in the price of the tax. And once there's an increase in the price of tax, quantity demanded will shift. So will change. So in this particular case, there is going to be a movement along the demand curve, as you can see, but not a shift in the entire demand curve. So the change in the supply curve resulting from the imposition of the taxes will lead to the change in quantity demanded. Okay, because of the high the imposition of the taxes, price of the cement will increase, and because price of cement is increasing, demand will also fall, and that is why quantity demanded will fall, and that is why you will find the demand, the quantity demanded decreasing from 21 to 18, to exhibit the law of the law of demand, that higher price, less is supplied. And when there is going to be a decrease in price, then quantity demanded will also pick up again. So this is how you illustrate it diagrammatically. Now, there is also a question, which is the C part. The C part. And what is the C part saying? What is the C part saying? Which is also very important. C is, what is the tax incidence? What is the tax incidence? As you can see, C, what is the tax incidence? So C is asking us to show the tax incidence. So what is the tax incidence? So C is tax incidence. So what is tax incidence? Basically, we are looking at tax incidence as what? We are looking at tax incidence as who bears. We are looking at tax incidence as who bears the burden of tax. Who bears the burden of tax? Which means that how do we share the tax? Or who pays how much? Who pays what? So by tax incidence, we are looking at the relative proportion of the payment of the tax. We are looking at the relative proportion of the payment of tax. So relative proportion. We are looking at the relative proportion. We are looking at the relative proportion of the payment of tax. So in this particular case, remember, government introduced tax of how much? Of 13. So we are looking at, this is the tax that government introduced. T is equal to 13 in the market. Remember, this particular tax is imposed on suppliers. So you will find the suppliers actually paying that. But the suppliers would have to do what? Would have to pass. Okay? So the suppliers would have to pass some of the tax to which people? To the consumers. To the consumers or to the buyers. So in this particular case, we are looking at who bears the burden of tax. So for this who, we are looking at two people. One, the suppliers against the what? Against the consumers. So for tax incidence, we are looking at the suppliers against what? The consumers. So for this particular new tax that has been shared, suppliers, how much are they paying the tax? How much are they paying the tax? And at the same time, how much will be passed on to what? To consumers. That is basically what the tax incidence is all about. So in this particular case, government imposed a tax of what? 13. So out of this 13, how much will suppliers pay? And how much will what? Consumers pay? That is you and I. So how much is GASEM going to pay out of this 13? And how much is what? Is how much it will buyers will also be contributing to this particular tax. Remember, we have this dynamic before the tax and after what? And after the tax. So before the tax, before tax, price was what? Price was, where is it? Here, 36. Before tax, price was 36. And after tax, it came to 18. So before tax, price was what? Is it 36 or I've just forgotten? Yes, 36. Price was 36. Before tax, price was what? 36. And after tax, price came to 48. And after tax, price came to 48. That is good. That is good. So which means that before tax, consumers were paying 36. Is that not it? And after tax, they are now paying what? 48. Which means that the change in price, okay, is what? 48, which is the after tax minus how much they were paying before tax, is what? 48 minus 36. You are going to have what? 12. So the change in what? Price is 12, which means that consumers are now paying 12 cedis higher, okay, for cement. Really, that is after the introduction of what? Tax, relative to how much they were paying before the introduction of what? Tax. So you realize that for the tax that is being introduced as 13, consumers are now paying how much more? 12 more, okay? Consumers are now paying 12 cedis what? More, which means that consumers tax is what? Is the 12 cedis, and then how much producers are paying? How much producers are paying will be the what? The 13 cedis, that is the tax rate. How much producers will be paying would be what? The tax minus what? The change in what? Minus the change in price. So the producers portion of the new tax, of the tax, will be what? The 13 cedis. That is the tax minus how much consumers are paying, which is what? 12. In this particular case, you will get 1 cedi, which means that consumers pay 12 cedis. 12 cedis of what? Of the tax. And then producers pay only what? 1 cedi. Only 1 cedi of what? Of the tax. Only 1 cedi of the tax. So you will also realize that consumers pay 12 over 13 times 100. If you want to know the percentage that is being pushed to consumers, so you have 12 over 13 times what? Times 100, which means that consumers are made to pay 92% of the taxes. So consumers pay 92% of the taxes, whilst producers pay how much? 8%. That is 100 minus what? Minus 92. Or if you just want, you can just as well just do 1 over what? 13. How much they pay times 100. You will get 8%, which means that consumers pay more of the new taxes, okay, for more of the new taxes compared to what? Producers. So this is the tax instance. So consumers pay 12, and then what? producers pay what? 13. So the question is asking you to show the tax incidence, which means I should show how the cost share and how the tax is being shared between producers and what? And suppliers. So this is how it's being shared. You remember before the taxes, consumers were paying what? 36 cedis. And after the taxes, they are now paying what? 48 cedis. So the extra amount that they are paying is as a result of the tax, which is what? 12. And how much producers will be paying is the difference between what? How much is being imposed as the tax, okay, and how much consumers pay, which you will get what? 13. 13 as the tax minus what? Minus how much consumers pay, which is what? 12. So you will get 12 cedis, 13 minus 12, which will give you 1 cedi. So producers only pay 1 cedi. In proportion terms, or in percentage, consumers pay 98%, as you can see, whilst producers pay what? Only 8% of the tax. Whilst producers pay only 8% of the tax. Okay. Any question? Let's move to the other one. So when you go back to the question, they are also saying that D is illustrate A and B diagrammatically. A is the equivalent price and quantity before the tax, and B is equivalent price, plotting equivalent price and equivalent quantity after the tax. As you can see, we've already done that one here. Sorry?
A question, please.
So as you see, we've already done that one here. So this is the what? This is the D part of it. This is the D. So this is how you plot it. So we have equivalent price, equivalent quantity before and after the imposition of the tax. Okay, please go ahead with the question.
Thank you, sir. So is it in all cases that consumers pay higher than producers?
Yeah, it's not all cases. It depends on the good. If your demand for a particular good is elastic, okay, you tend to producers tend to pay more of the taxes compared to consumers. And if demand for a particular good is inelastic, consumers pay more. And we'll be doing that in subsequent sessions under elasticities.
Okay. So the second question is there a term for that when consumers are paying more than suppliers? And maybe
and that's why I said they bear the highest burden of tax. They bear the brunt. So here, who bears the tax? I don't know whether there is a term, but it's cost sharing. So the consumers pay more.
okay. Thank you.
So can we proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the other question is telling us to illustrate A and B diagrammatically. And we already illustrated that earlier, which is what? The C part, the D part, illustrate A and B diagrammatically before the introduction of tax and after the introduction of what? Tax, which we already did. I hope you can remember. Okay. Now, the other part is telling us to do what? Find the corresponding value of government's what? Revenue. Find the corresponding value of government's tax revenue at the new equilibrium. Find the corresponding what? Revenue of government at the new equilibrium. What is this saying? Government wants to raise revenue, so government is imposing a tax. Okay, so here we are looking at what? Government revenue. We are looking at government revenue. So government wants to raise revenue and government introduce what? A tax. Okay, so government total revenue will be how much is being imposed as a tax times what? How much is being what? Bought. That is the quantities. Okay. So in this particular case, they are telling us to find the equilibrium at the new, find the revenue at the new equilibrium. And you realize that the new equilibrium quantity, that's when government introduced the tax, was what? The new equilibrium. As you can see, 18. That is after tax. Equilibrium is what? 18. So how many quantities have been produced and how many quantities have been sold? So we have the new equilibrium to be what? The new equilibrium quantity to be 18. And then the government tax is what? Is 13. So the government revenue will be what? The tax here, which is 13 times what? The quantity, which is what? 18. So the government's total revenue would be 13 times 18. So government is raking in a revenue of 2, 3, 4. So this is government total revenue from the imposition of tax. So this is how much GASEM will be paying to government as a result of the imposition of what? Of the tax. The other producers, Swell, Diamond, Savannah, would also be Dangote and Co would also be paying taxes of 13, and they would also, how much will be paid to government would now depend on how much they are also able to sell, to produce and sell. So this is the total government revenue. This is the total government revenue. Okay. Now the other part is asking us to do what? To show more. Let me see. The other part is saying that real estate agents and landlords are worried about the impact of the tax on their operations. With the aid of well-labeled diagrams, what will be the effect of the imposition of tax on the housing market? This is good. So we'll be doing this later. We are looking at changes in one market, how that affects, the other markets, because government has introduced taxes on cement. What is the impact on the housing market? So we will be looking at this one in our next session. Okay. Now let's make progress. Muda, when it's
A
time,
question,
let me know.
please. A
Okay,
question.
please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
Hello, Doc. Before the tax, the quantity, if you look at the graph, where. Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
Hello, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Very good. So yeah, with this graph, you realize that before the tax, the quantity was 21.
Yes.
Very good. So if you now pick the tax, which is 13, and multiply by 21, you realize that government was earning much after introducing the tax.
No, remember before taxes, which means that tax was 0. Are you getting it? Yes, I'm getting it. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm saying that before taxes, it means that tax was 0. So government revenue, okay, would have been tax times quantity. And remember, before taxes, tax was 0 and quantity was what? 21.
21. Yes.
So government revenue would have been 0 times 21, which would be what? 0. So before revenue, before tax, government wasn't getting anything.
Okay.
Are you getting it? It is after the tax that government introduced 13, and then the quantity now decreased because it's now higher, price is now higher, decreased to 18. So government tax revenue would now be the 13 times what? 18, which is the 2, 3, 4. I hope you can see it. So government wasn't earning. It was rather the suppliers who were earning.
Okay. Thank you, Doc.
Okay, so we can make progress. Okay, now let's look at a situation where we have, this is also very good and linked to, I think someone ever asked that question. Let's look at a situation where we have change in demand and change in supply. Now, we are looking at the effect of changes in demand and changes in what? Supply. What will be the effect on the market when, if demand remains constant, supply changes, what will be the effect on the market? And by being the effect on the market, we are looking at what? We are looking at, what is the name? Effect on equilibrium price and effect on what? Equilibrium quantity, okay? So when there is a change in demand and change in supply, what is the effect on the market? So please note, effect, by saying effects on the market, I'm looking at what? Effects on equilibrium price and effect on what? On equilibrium what? Quantity. So what I mean by effect on the market is effect on the price of the commodity and effect on what? On the quantity of the commodity. Now, let's look at a situation where, let's look at the first one, change in demand. So let's look at change in demand when supply is held what constant. So one, let's look at a situation where we have change in demand, okay, when supply is constant. What will be the effect on the market? Change in demand when supply is constant. What will be the effect on the market? And please note, for change in demand, we are looking at what? Increase in demand and decrease in demand. Because when we are talking about a change, it's either an increase or a decrease in demand. So let's look at the first situation where there is what? Increase in demand when supply is constant. So what will be the effect on the market? Now, in this particular case, we have demand, we have quantity here, we have what? Price. We have demand here. And we have what? Supply here. So this is our equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. I'm going to call it QE. And this is our equilibrium what? Price. PE. So this is a well-behaved market with equilibrium. Now we are talking about supply, this supply curve being what? Constant, but demand will increase. What will happen to what will be the effect on the market? In this particular case, demand is increasing. If demand is increasing, it means that the demand curve will shift to where? To the right. Is that not it? When it's showing an increase. So supply is held constant. This supply is held constant, but the demand curve is what? Is increasing. So if it is increasing, it means that the demand curve will what? Shift to the right. So we have our new demand curve here. So we have our new demand curve. So with this one, we have a new equilibrium. This is E1. We have a new equilibrium here because it will meet with the supply curve, which is E2. What is happening to equilibrium quantity? Quantity will increase to Q, this one. Are we seeing it? And what will happen to price? Price will, or equilibrium price will also what? Increase to, to P, E, let me call here PE2. So here demand is increasing, but supply is held what? Constant at S. So what is the effect on the market? So the effect on the market is we are no longer operating in the old equilibrium QE. We are now operating in the new equilibrium, which is what? E2. And at that new equilibrium, what is happening to price? Price is what? Increasing. And what is happening to quantity? Quantity will also what? Increase. So what is the effect on the market? So what is the effect on the market? What is the effect on the market? In a situation where there is an increase in demand and supply remain constant. So the effect on the market will be what? As you can see, an increase in what? In price, okay? As you can see from this to this, and an increase in what? In quantity. An increase in quantity. So this is the effect on the market. So when supply is well behaved, demand curves are also well behaved, and supply remains constant. All of a sudden, people are increasing demand for a particular commodity. The increased demand will push up prices. Okay, the market forces will push up prices, and quantity demanded will also increase because suppliers now see the increase in price as an incentive to do what? To produce more. So you have both the demand, both the price and supply increasing. Okay, so you have both the price and quantity actually what? Increasing. So its effect on the market is an increase in the price of that good in the market and an increase in the quantity of that particular market. Let's look at the B part. If there is a decrease in demand and supply is held constant. So for the B part, if we have decrease in demand and supply is what? And supply is constant. What will be the effect on the market? So let's go to the next. Let's go to the next page. So in this particular case, we are going to have what? this quantity, this price, this is our demand curve. And this is our what? Our supply curve. And this is our equilibrium. So this is where the market conditions are. So this is first equilibrium. And this is what the equilibrium what? Price. And remember, we are saying that here demand is decreasing. So which means that there is a decrease in demand. And demand decreases by shifting what? To the left. So in this case, we will have our new demand curve, okay? Shifting to the left, maybe here. Shifting to the left, so maybe here. No. Good. So this is the new demand curve. D2, here was D1. So what is happening here? You will find a new equilibrium. And at that new equilibrium, demand is equal to what? Supply. D2 is equal to what? S2. So we have a new equilibrium, which is QE2, and a new equilibrium price, which is this one. So as you can see, what is happening? Price has fallen, and quantity has also what? Has also fallen. So the effect on the market here would be what? As you can see, price will fall. And what will also happen to quantity? Quantity would also what? Fall. So if supply remains unchanged and there is a decrease in demand, which is shifting the entire demand curve inwards or to the left, okay, then the price of that particular good will fall, which means that people no longer demand for that particular commodity. So its price will fall, and then the quantity would also what? Would also fall. But you realize that for the increase in demand, price is increasing, and then quantity supply is also what? Increasing. So this is the first one. That is when there's a change in demand with supply remaining what? Constant. So and the change in demand is what? Either increase in demand, this is the effect on the market, and then the decrease in demand, this is the effect on the market. So now let's look at the second part. This is one. Let's look at the second one. So the second one is to look at the other side, which is what? Change in supply when demand is constant. When demand is constant. So in this particular case, we are going to hold the demand curve constant and then vary the supply and see the effect on the market. Here, similar to the demand curve, for the change in supply, we are looking at what? Increase in supply or decrease in supply. So let's look at the first case when there is an increase in what? In supply, and demand is held what? Is held constant. What will be the effect on the market? In this particular case, we have this as what? Quantity, here as price. We have here as what? As our demand curve, and we have here as what? As supply curve. So the equilibrium would be what? This is the equilibrium what? Quantity. And this is the equilibrium price. So what are we saying? We are saying that there is an increase in supply, which means that this supply curve will shift up, okay? So by increasing supply with demand being constant, it means that our entire supply curve, maybe what will increase the supply? Government has reduced taxes, or government is putting up more subsidies to people so that they produce more. But demand remains constant and people are producing. So what will happen? Supply curve will increase. So this is the new supply curve, S1. So supply will increase. It will meet a demand curve to form another equilibrium of what? E2, here will be E1. So under the new equilibrium, we have our equilibrium price, which is what? EE2, and then new equilibrium quantity, which is QE2. So with this one, what is the effect on the market? What are we seeing? We are no longer operating at E1 at this particular price. We are operating at what? E2 at this particular price of P2. So price has done what? What has price done? Price has increased. And what about quantity? Quantity has what? Fallen. So what is the effect on the market? So effect on the market. So effect on the market. What is the effect on the market? In this particular case, what are we seeing? Price is increasing and quantity is what? Quantity is what? Is falling. So in this particular case, when there is no, this is a decrease in supply. This is a decrease in supply. No one reminded me this is a decrease. In this case, supply is decreasing. This is a decrease in supply. This is a decrease in supply. Okay, supply decreases once it is what? Increasing to the left, once it is shifting to the left, as you can see. So this is what? Decrease in supply. So let's say in a situation where there is decrease in supply, okay? So by decreasing in supply, you realize that the supply curve will shift, okay, to the left, denoting the decrease in what? Supply. So when there is a decrease in supply, we will no longer be operating at what? S. We will now be operating at what? S1, because supply has decreased. And because supply has decreased, price will increase from what? P E1 to PE what? 2 to show the increase in what? The decrease in supply. And at the same time, the quantity will also what? Quantity will also what? Fall. So this is the case where there is what? A decrease in what? Supply. Maybe let's say government has increased what? Taxes. When government increase tax, what will happen to supply? Supply will fall because of what? Increase in cost of production. So in a situation where there is an increase in the cost of production, supply will what? Supply will fall by shifting upwards, as you can see, from S to S1. And that increase in the supply, the taxes, will lead to fall in supply, and its effect on the market will be what? An increase in the price of that good and a decrease in what? In the quantity of that particular good. So this is the case for, you know, a situation where there is what? Decrease in supply and demand remaining what? Constant. Okay. So now, let's look at the second case. So the second case, we are looking at a situation where there is, the second case is B. We are looking at a situation where there is what? An increase in supply when demand is constant. When demand is constant. In this particular case, let's have this quantity. We have this. We have this as what? As demand. And we have this as what? Supply. So we have an equilibrium. We have an equilibrium. So this is the equilibrium price. And this is the equilibrium what? Quantity. Good. But supply has increased. And when supply increases, what will happen to the supply curve? The entire supply curve will shift to where? To the right, because there is going to be an increase in the supply. So we will no longer be operating at what? S. We will now have a new supply curve which will shift to the right.
Doc,
So
we
this
are
is
left
the
with
new.
minutes.
We are left with what?
2 minutes.
So this will shift to the right. So we have the new supply curve. Okay. So the new supply curve will match with the new supply curve will match with the what? The demand curve. So we have a new equilibrium E2. This is E1. So under E2, we will have the new equilibrium price, which is what? P1, P2 here. P2.
Hello, Doc.
And then, yes, I can hear you, Muda.
So I'm alerting that you have 2 minutes remaining.
I've heard you, Muda.
Yeah.
So here would have what? Supply increasing from this curve S to a new one. So what is the effect on the market when there is an increase in supply? What is happening? Price is falling and quantity is what? Is increasing. So effect on the market. Effect on the market in this particular case is what? Fall in price and then increase in what? In quantity. So this will be the effect on the market. This will be the effect on the market. So you will have four options. Here, an increase in supply when demand is constant. This is the effect on the market. Decrease in supply when there is what? When demand is constant, and you also have the situation of the demand cases. So just to conclude, when you look at the last question that we asked, real estate agents and landlords are worried about the impact of tax on their operations. With the aid of what diagram, what will be the effect of the imposition of tax on the housing market? So what will be the effect on the imposition of tax on the housing market? Please remember, the imposition of the tax will increase cost of production. Is that not it? And once cost of production will increase, what will happen to the demand, the supply and demand curve? Or what will happen to the supply curve? The supply curve will what? Will fall. Once there's an increase in cost of production, supply will what? Fall. So which curve are we going to use to solve it? Supply will fall. So it's this one. Because demand is held constant, supply is falling. So this is the first one. So this is the market for cement. This is the market. You can use this to exhibit the market for cement. But this market for cement will have an effect on the market for housing or real estate housing. Okay. And with that one, there is an increase in the price of cement. This is the market for cement. And that increase in the price of cement will lead to decrease in the what? In the what? Will people buy more cement to build? No. So it will decrease the what? The supply of what? Of houses. Because once there is an increase in the price of what? Of cement, people will now demand less, okay, to build. So in the housing market, there's going to be lower demand for housing. So that will be how you analyze the effect. So you use this particular curve to do the analysis of how one market condition affects the other market condition. You can also extend this to the analysis of the labor market, how the imposition of maybe increasing the minimum wage affects the labor market. We'll be doing this in our subsequent session. And next week, I want us to conclude on demand by looking at the existence of surpluses and shortages, and as well as issues on elasticities. So next week, I will be quite faster. Muda, are you sure it's up to 2 hours? Any question?
Doc, yeah, we added you the remaining minutes. They're supposed to stop at 12:30, but now it's 12:50.
Okay, so any question before we conclude?
No, please, want to see your face.
You want to see my face? Why do you want to see my face?
I have a question, please.
Okay, ask.
Please, can we say that the last question? Can we say that the effect on the housing? Can we say it is a complementary good?
Yes, sure. So it's complementary, yeah. Because Muda is sucking me. I'm not able to explain more on that. But of course, yes, it's complementary because you need cement to do what? You need cement to build houses. So once there is an increase in the price of this particular cement, what will happen to the other? So you can see me now. So you have a decrease in the demand because prices of cement have increased. So there will be decrease in the demand for cement. And of course, there will be less work in construction. So people will no longer be constructing much houses. So there will be shortages of houses, and that shortages of houses will also lead to hikes in rents. So you will find landlords increasing rents because people are no longer builders. So supply of housing in the real estate market would also fall. Yes, any question? Okay.
Any
So in the
questions?
absence of, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, continue, Doc. It seems
Okay.
there are no questions.
Okay, so that is it. In the absence of any other question, we will We will continue next week, and next week I'm going to be very fast because I think we are lacking behind. Okay. So just to conclude, you will if a question is going to come on the demand and supply, it's definitely going to be multiple good cases, like true commodity, what we did, and we will also introduce taxes. And after taxes, then we will do how the effect of one side of the market condition affects the other side. So that is how we will do the analysis. So just in case you would want to know how the nature of the questions are, they will no longer be, it will not be different from what we just discussed, even though you may have, different set of questions. But in terms of technicalities and the extent to which we will have to, answer the questions is definitely the same. So as usual, I will share the notes with you immediately after this class, and Muda would also share the recordings with you. And like I also mentioned,